Welcome back. You watch your Morning Live. Thank you very much for staying with us now. Pupinia Artistic Creations with the Ekurhuleni Metro will later on today present cultural discussions, motivational talks, poetry, comedy and music by some of Ekurhuleni's best artists through the Cultural Connection concert. The aim of the concert is to bring the community together through the celebration of cultural diversity. To tell us more about the concert, we are joined in studio by Mr. Keith Sithole. Sir, thank you very much for joining us here on Morning Live.
Thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers.
So before we get into Cultural Connection, the upcoming concert, what was the inspiration behind putting together an event of this nature?
Well, I always say that if there are issues in the country, it means all of us must come in, you know. There were depressing news of late in our country. In the recent past, you had situations where we're told that we are going to be downgraded, and that led to the Minister of Finance going out on a roadshow to recapture the confidence of the investors. And then we had situations where, whilst we were excited about the whole hosting of the 2010 soccer, games, then there was a problem that apparently there is an allegation that some of the officials had some foul play. And then whilst all that was happening again, we had a situation where the majority of this country were then defined as residents of the zoo. We reminded that we're monkeys, and one then sat down and said, no. With this plethora of challenges that are depressing, there is a need. You know, there is a Sotho beautiful cultural adage that says, so in the midst of that tension filled, in the midst of that bitterness, in the midst of that story that is not exciting, we needed to come in as social commentators and put together a thing like that says maybe the reason for one of us describing us in that way is that we have not interacted at regular basis or on the cultural level, but at the same time introducing diverse cultures, so that at the end of the day they boil into one pot and we cook a cultural soup out of it.
You've brought on a host of different artists, from very well-known motivational speaker Dr. David Malapo to Dane McHammond. You've brought so many different people in to kind of speak to their culture, but yet as a country, as communities, as individuals, we're still in this day and age, 20 years past our democracy, struggling to define our culture, struggling to look at what are the aspects that make up that culture or that cultural experience, and how do we relate that to other people so that we are all tolerant of each other.
But you're going to do that only if you begin to understand each other. For instance,
how does this event speak to that?
Let me give you a quick one here.
Yeah.
And I want to really salute the Ekurhuleni Metro under the leadership of the Executive Mayor Mondli Nkungubele. When we said to him, we're coming up with this idea, he then said, no, listen, I would appreciate such an idea, but make sure that the different cultures come in. That is why you have Dane McHammond, who will be looking mostly at the Afrikaner community and the audience with their own way of doing things. And then you also had diverse genres within the performing arts. In there you've got your poetry from your Masojas, you've got in there your comedies from Alex and Sister H. In there you've got music from the local, by the way, all of these people, this is talent from Ekurhuleni, all of them. And
that is very important, isn't it?
Yes, because some of the people don't know their own talent. You know, they always say that a prophet is never known to be a prophet in his own home ground. And then you've got the dynamic Dr. Malapo. All of them come from Ekurhuleni. None of them comes out unless the person who came up with the idea. But also we are all Gauteng citizens. So it makes a lot of sense for the mayor and his team to come on board. But also to begin to say, in there's an element. That's why we call it also a cultural connection. There's an element, there's going to be 10-15 minutes, there's a team, a panel there that is going to be led by Dr. Matole Motshekga, and that team is going to be listening to the three people who are going to be coming up with their clan names, and coming in very confidently with the knowledge of their clan names, and some will come with Leboko, some will come with Istugo, some will come with Istagazelo, so that we begin to embrace and be proud of who we are. Whoever wins out of that gets a trip, a weekend away in Durban, so that we inspire people, encourage people to know their roots. And then in that way, we can begin then to have truly social cohesion when we begin to understand ourselves and begin to trace our roots and begin to say to each other, it is possible. Diversified as we are, it's possible to be unified.
Some of the objectives, are there clear objectives at the end of this cultural concert? What are some of the objectives that you've put down on paper to say, we have to meet those in order to be seen to be successful?
One, to ignite this cultural consciousness in the people. Two, to begin to look, not to look down upon your particular culture, because it has a role to play. And imagine when you go to a Mufukeng child who is beginning to go haywire, and you say to her, my dearest daughter, my dearest son, Bopoka, Eona, Bafukeng, Eona, Bakasukwane Leon. And you go to a Kumalo girl or boy who's beginning to be haywire and say, no, Amatunga wayas them tanam, it will never happen. So you are reprimanding a child in the true context of who he or she is in a clan name. That is why I salute your former leaders of this country, like Tata Mandela, who would be saying, when he sees Tata Sithole, he'll be saying Kamela. And when Tata Sithole responds, Madiba. And people would have thought these are nicknames. They're not nicknames, they're clan names, they represent their roots. And that's the kind of spirit we want to put together and bring to the attention of the young people. The third thing is that we are faced with a serious problem where we take our children to Model C schools. And when at Model C schools, then there is a clash of cultures. In the Model C schools, the white children are told, if you talk to your parents, if you talk to your elders, you look them in the eye. But in our scenario, you don't look at the elderly person in the eye. So we make sure that those kind of discussions continue to happen.
And they're very important.
And at the end, we begin to, from our parents, from our grandparents, the kind of values like your respect, your dignity, and loyalty, we begin to say, bring them back. Those things are very important, especially these days where people want to believe everything has got to be driven in a chaotic way.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very much for joining me. That's Mr. Keith Sithole talking to us about the Cultural Connection concert, which is at place to take later today. If you are available, go and check it out. It's amazing. It's at the Springs Theatre, and it'll start at 2, and the entrance fee is 150 Rand. Money well spent. We take an ad break. Don't get away.